Of course, forces have taken the war to Al-Shabaab inside Somalia. Will not this country. The stint I had at the Ministry of Defense, I have never been indicted in any adversely in any report of Parliament. I have always had clearance from the criminal, climate change, and forestry. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Duale, you will recall that during and asked for a simple and transparent. Are you going to ensure that this carbon trading trickles down right to the pledge to the world, that it should plant 15 billion trees by 2030, if approved? What measures will you put in place to ensure
carbon trading, carbon offsets last year amended the Climate Change Act? Two, our president is currently the chairman of companies abroad in the developed world who are victims, who are the vulnerables. So these companies, whether they're in the oil exploration structure, where both the private and the public sector engage in that. Northern Kenya, the so-called northern, by these project proponents. Before this law, because it was off, whatever carbon markets resources are received from to our rangelands and enter into an agreement with the project implementers in December, where we said we must restore this so far to give the status, so far vision is so far to give the status, so far vision program, the planting of trees must be a bottom-up approach. The communities must fruit trees, that communities see the value, that as you plant site. Two, this program requires serious, the banks, that every section of our degraded forest, and I am sure right now as we speak, game changer. On the flip side of it, Mr. Speaker, a role in the reduction of the emissions, the greenhouse emissions. So we must preserve our environment. It's our heritage. So it's not even an article of the Constitution.
The epicenter of your ministry. I'll now ask the majority leader.
To the corporates, I hope is to own the work.
And they can use it for branding.
You know, we have very many petitions in Parliament on the gazetted forests and forests that are grabbed. What you would intend to do to reclaim all this grabbed forest land?
A number of petitions touching on forest for even government offices across our forest. When the Honorable late Michu for environment, it's a recurring thing. And what I want to intend, if this House approves me, Mr. Speaker, is first, and the Cabinet, the highest decision element, the ones which have not been dealt. To Ololua, Mr. Speaker, I want to categorically, without in the first 30 days, working with the Minister for Land, a number of titles, including and belonging to big people in government, and I am ready to bear their particularly for the one on Ololua. Experts, and I have seen it's delivered. In the last 2 years, there are people who got visit, and also with the committee on environment. Is a member of this committee, my chair. We will visit, and please, Mr. Speaker, some of your members might be casual.
No problem. If you do what is right, we will support you. Yes.
Mr. Speaker, knows the grabbers of Ololua Forest because he has claimed they are senior government officers, including members of parliament. I hope he's not revised.
I am the nominee for the Minister of Environment, Climate Change. So if this House approves me, forestry will be my business. Whatever their status is in society. Mr. Speaker, let me say it. With the last 2 years when I was at the Minister of Defense and I had the privilege to serve, and you served as the member of Security Council when you're Minister of Foreign Affairs. If today I'm asked between Al-Shabaab and corruption, which is to the national security of Kenya, without corruption is more of a threat to our security and our existence than Al-Shabaab, because Al-Shabaab you can identify, you know their location, is the one that is killing our country. So, as I go to environment, from NEMA, at least, if you are hearing me and you sit here or you are somewhere and you have...
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I have two questions for the nominee. One is... one of which is on him, one of the nominees that have come here, Mr. Speaker, and he said, if you approve me, I'm going to deal with people. This is very good, because many people fear to give their position. But having said that, Mr. Speaker, what country should focus on? That you think as a country we should focus on this one environmental issue. Secondly, the government pronounced and say 15 billion trees by 2032. Is that achievable in your view? What do you think? What will be the criteria of achieving that? You see, Mr. Speaker, we are now in a public forum to us. And the nominee, whom I know very well, who was our majority leader for many years, somebody who does not mince his words, somebody who speaks his mind. He said that there are people who are... Could he share with us who those people could be to know that maybe where we are sleeping is maybe not a forest? Maybe some of us are living inside a forest, Mr. Speaker, so we can start packing before he's approved.
Mr. Speaker, the first question was, what is this one thing that environment, the place of environment is in our preamble of the Constitution. Environment has been cited in Article 42, right to secure and clean environment. Article 69 of the Constitution, citizen rights on environmental issues. And even Article 70, Mr. Speaker, it's or any other actors violate the environmental rights of citizens. So public participation, stakeholder engagement, citizens' right is very key to environment. But with these rights to the environment comes with responsibility. Have a responsibility to protect and preserve our health. The critical things, Honorable Junet, that we are facing as a country. Both air and water. We have serious pollution, polluted by industries, by noise pollution, are polluted. Mr. Speaker, the three rivers is called the Ondiri Swamp. By the time the sewage and all the other things that they pass through, the earthy, the mother diversity, our biodiversity.
But from Dagoretti, the origin is very clean.
Yes. Yes, Honorable. Thank you for that information. It's subjective, so we need to go with you and check. So biodiversity heritage are finishing. How are they finished? Through agriculture. Even the small insects, through agriculture, waste. The waste management in our country and in our counties is MCA of 1999, various amendments. Even it's a household responsibility. Honorable Deputy Speaker, for example, if I pick her, in our own bags, one for the wet waste and one for the dry waste. The person picking it is supposed to have two different trucks. When it goes to Dandora's site, it's supposed to have where it can deliver the dry, where it can be recycled, and where it can deliver the organic, where it can be used for many, many things. So those three issues, and also the waste management, I think is something that I will maybe later explain we must deal with. 10 billion tree planting, Ethiopia did 30 billion. Ethiopia is a country that we can be proud of, we can learn a lot. Go to Ethiopia, I'm ready to walk the talk, help the president, talk to are very, very important. These tree planting, members of parliament are very, very important. It's not about taking a chopper, planting few trees, you don't know who takes care about them. In fact, the problem is, it's not about, it's planting and then making sure the tree grow. So the private sector, the public sector, the communities at home will help us.
Thank you. This time around, I'll start with Miss Caleb. I've been petitioned by Mishi and Mukami that I change tact in who speaks first. You guys will be the last this time.
Mr. Speaker, they didn't consult me.
Give it to Mukami then.
No, I will, Speaker.
And ask, in the interest of time, ask.
Mr. Speaker, I'll ask one question because I was trying to prepare. If I get a chance later, I will. There is a major conference happening in November in Azerbaijan and Baku. Do you know the conference, the name, the history, and how Kenya can tap into such global in the fight for climate change?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Speaker, the 29th Conference of Parties to the UN Convention on Climate Change, UNFCCC, held in Baku, in Azerbaijan, between the 11th and 22nd of November. On the 11th is the first day for the heads of states and governments to change. What are the top priorities that this conference will come up with? One of what they call the new collective qualified goal for climate financing. Climate financing has just been a talk show. This time we're saying, people are saying, we must adopt a proper financing and climate adaptation and climate mitigation. So that will be a discussion. That in Copenhagen, which was, I think, COP 15, people pledged, up to now, I think nothing has been given. But for Africa and for Kenya, Mr. Speaker, we are taking it, and again, thirdly, the finalization of the operationalization of Article 6 of the Paris Agreement, which defines carbon market, is what I think Kenya, led by President Ruto. Let us not have a talk show. The UN meetings must come with clear, achievable, for fighting climate mitigation and climate adaptation.
The other question, with your kind permission. It's a privilege of being the first. Thank you, Speaker. I just want to know where the nominee came from, the Military of Defense, because I happen to have served in the Committee of Defense and interacted with the ministry a lot. That I've not seen where the public officers use defense choppers, military choppers, and the military artillery to move around the country, putting the risk of the defense and of course the officers. In fact, in the public, which if not true I will withdraw, is that the military has feared you. You have become more military than the military. Why did the military fear you?
I don't think the military fear me, but put many things. I don't know, you talked about choppers and then you brought the issue. So are you saying I fear going by military choppers?
No, I said I've never seen other public officers other than the president, who is the commander in the country, and other members of the public office. And also, there is a word.
Are you talking of civilians? Because military officers are also public officers.
Yeah, like when the deputy president. Sometimes. So I wanted just him to clarify whether also deputy president is allowed to, or was it misuse of power in your, because it's something that I've never seen with the previous ministers.
Yeah, Mr. Speaker, let me say it because it gave me a lot of but when you serve in a public office, that's part of life. Within the reading is the president. The president and the first lady military air with a rider. If the commander allows the Speaker of the National Assembly to be airlifted, but with the concurrence of the Commander-in-Chief. I don't know, I don't think the rank and maybe my style. And I'll take the same style. I'll take the same style. I had the same style in Parliament. When I was a leader.
Thank you, Chair. Given the recent concerns about the government directives on grazing within the forest foresters are really harassing the communities. The country experienced floods that left many stranded on account of ineffective rescue operations. Would you collaborate with the relevant agencies to ensure operations during such incidents? Thank you.
Hold Duale, Mishi. Let's take 2-2.
Chairman, Honorable Chairman, before I raise my questions, I just want to ask the public, because when His Excellency the President pronounced the list of the nominee, but when the list came to the Parliament, it was under the Environment. climate and forest. Doubting his ability and leadership capacity, or what was the reason? My first question, in accordance with the fourth schedule. Yeah, in accordance with the fourth schedule of the Constitution, environmental government, so that you also avoid duplication of programs in terms of the same function.
Chair, let me start with the Honorable Mishi. Even after this, in the event this president, after all of us are approved in reports, and I am ready, or education, I am ready to serve in any capacity that the president governs. The chair, on behalf of the governor, is the CEC for environment. Between the Ministry of Environment, Climate Change, and Forestry, my very good friend, the women rep, this house, in its wisdom in lawmaking, they created something called GRACE. Do they GRACE where we have doing regeneration of the forest? So what are we doing to make sure that we don't have a conflict? And Mr. Speaker, in some of the forests, unfortunately, powerful people in government, in the private sector, who own thousands of livestock, graze in those forests. I'm sorry to say that. But if this House approves me and I become the minister, I want to do some key long-term plans. One, just to have to review the whole grazing management plans, how we can regulate the authorized grazing in our forest ecosystem, how we can fence off areas where we feel are very sensitive in the forest, that we don't allow our animals or our farmers to farm. And lastly, I think the forest community management regulation of 2016 has not been operationalized, and I'm going to operationalize with the approval of this House, because that will give them the rights. Mr. Speaker, the second question of Honorable Mukami, I didn't get it. If you can repeat it. Oh, yeah, it was about the floods. Yes. Mr. Speaker, climate change today is the biggest threat to humanity. I mean, you can see what's happening in India and Ethiopia in the last 1 week. Thousands of people have died because of the mudslide. You have seen the wildfires in California. You have seen the hurricanes, what they're doing, kind of destruction. And coming back home, the last 2 years, we had a severe drought that killed many livestock, affected our farmers, affected food security, destroyed, and then next after the drought, we had the floods, which again affected livelihoods, destroyed our infrastructure, roads, and farms, and livestock was swept away. So, and that's why, because of the climate change and all this, one of the issues why we're having 15 billion trees is to recover our forest ecosystem, restoration, regeneration, bring back our biodiversity. So, Mr. Speaker, I think I have tried to answer the questions of...
Honorable Chairman, point of order.
Yes.
Part of my question was not answered. Chairman, I was asking this question: how do we improve the health of communities which are living near a polluted site? I'm asking this because in my constituency, there is a plant built by Titanium Base who are doing some mining in Kwale, and there's no mitigation which has been done, and it's a residential area. That is why I was asking that question specifically.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I forgot to answer that question. Let me answer it. It's not only in Likoni. Mr. Speaker, we have a serious problem between how county governments enforce their physical planning and zoning of areas and the role of environmental institutions in making sure that zoning is respected. Mr. Speaker, even here in Nairobi, you'll find county governments with no regard to the law, to the Physical Planning Act, allowing industry and factories to be established in residential areas, and bars, and bring noise pollution. The same, you cannot have a refinery next to a residential area. The laws, the environmental laws, the Physical Planning Act, the Land Use Act, all those don't allow it. So, Mheshimiwa Mishi, this is because of corruption. And Mr. Speaker, that's why you see even skyscrapers are appearing next to each other, buildings which has no ventilation, they have no air, there's no sand, particularly in this cold weather of July. Your children will live in an apartment, they will never see the sun, they'll never get the fresh air. So all this, Mr. Speaker, if I am confirmed, I want to assure this House, and governors must listen to me, and we are going to do an audit. NEMA is going to do an audit of Build Our Country.
You'll pass.
I want to say without benefit of doubt, if the members of parliament are not used in planting trees, in conserving the environment, then that thing is bound to fail, and it will fail seriously. In northern Kenya, currently, the Northern Rangeland Trust, NGOs, are the ones that are being used for conservation, environmental support programs. But at the same time, we have left out KWS and forestry, which is a very serious omission. Going forward, maybe tell us what plans you may have, so that institutions of government are not killed silently by non-governmental actors. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you, Speaker. The nominee, Honorable Duale, Karibu. Kenya hosts one of the United Nations Environmental Office. The people of Kenya, especially at the grassroots level, I doubt whether they can fill this office, and it's a UN office. Can you tell us how will you regulate the status
and implementation, patriotism they have to the country, and I will carry the respect that they give to each other within the rank and the file, and the teamwork that we had at the defense. Those are things. Secondly, I think on the conservancy, Northern Trust, I think, is one of the biggest. There are many conservancies. Most of them, Mr. Speaker, they are not under my ministry. They are under the Ministry of Wildlife. They have airstrips. But I think working with the other ministries and working with the leaders, working with the stakeholders, even working with some of our security agents, we need to have a conversation on how these conservancies, and particularly members of parliament from the Asal region, on how these conservancies are run, how they are managed, what is the benefit to the communities, how will they behave when there is a conflict, particularly during the drought. Our animals, the animals of the people in the Asal, when there is a lack of water and pasture, they enter. Honorable Asuda will agree with me in Samburu, there's a lot of conflict. So I think we need to have a more bigger conversation. We need to discuss about the carbon market, how much they are getting, the Northern Trust Fund, vis-a-vis, are they implementing the 40% that the law and the regulations give to the people? Honorable Mule, we are a very privileged country. We are a very privileged because we host UN. We host UNEP and UN Habitat. These are the only UN agencies in the global south. So it's a big privilege and honor for our country. And in fact, that's why in some quarters, Nairobi is called the environmental capital of the world. And it's the only UN body. And this is where you have the expertise, the knowledge, the pool of experts, the top world experts on environment are based in Nairobi. They advise governments very, very far away from Nairobi. As Kenyans, as a minister for nominee for environment, I want to assure you that that proximity we have to this institution, it must work in our favor. We must use the skilled labor. We must use the experts that we have. We must use the data they have to build our own environmental data. We must use them to build the capacity and the skills of our staff in our country, in the midst of environment. We must do technology and skill transfer from the men and women who work. And as the focal ministry to UNEP, I want to assure this committee that I will work very, very, very closely with them. And I'll work also very, very closely with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and the two ambassadors, or the ambassador who is second or posted to UNEP and UN Habitat. I'll work with them, that we must make sure that this important institution help us. We are trying to build, lastly, what we call the State of the Environment Report. The State of the Environment Report, a very important report that will come to Parliament. We must leverage on the skills, on the experts who work and who come from globally at the United Nations Environmental Program and UN Habitat.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Nominee Aden Duale, you know, the Ministry of Environment requires a no-nonsense CS like Mishuki. You know, remember when Mishuki went to transport, he cleaned up the public transport system. And when he went to environment, he actually cleaned up Nairobi River. You could even drink the water then. But after he left, he just went back to the bad old days. Now, for us to be able to gauge your suitability, it is important that we make reference to the position that you have held, which we are aware of. And so I have two questions based on your suitability, based on your experience, your past experience. First one is corruption in the recruitment of military officers. You have been in the docket of defense, and from yesterday there was a lot of discussion about how much Kenyans have to pay so that their sons or daughters are recruited into the military. What did you do about these menace when you are CS for defense? And secondly, in the recent demos, when Kenyans were exercising their constitutional rights under Article 37, the military was deployed to Kenyan streets via Gazette Notice 7861, signed by you on 25th of June 2024. Now, unlike police that use tear gas, canisters, batons, rubber bullets, water cannons, the military is known for live bullets, grenades, assault rifles, tankers, and bombs. Now, what was the intention behind sending the military to the streets? Was there a plan to shoot to kill demonstrators?
Mr. Speaker, I'm not John Michuki, but I will be like John Michuki. I can assure the member that I'll try my best. Nairobi River Commission used to be under the Ministry of Environment. Now it's not under me. It's under the Deputy President. But we need to deal with the Nairobi River Commission. The pollution that is going on in Nairobi River Commission, Nairobi rivers, because of the dysfunctional sewage system, which needs to be upgraded. The dumping sites of Nairobi County, all of them, including Dandora, are on Nairobi and Nairobi rivers. So the governor of Nairobi, at some stage, and I hope he will listen to me if I'm appointed, he has to look for other dumping sites outside the Nairobi River Causeway, Rivers Causeway. So coming to military recruitment, I agree with you, it's a systemic issue. And I was watching yesterday, the speaker said, the president himself is concerned. But we have agreed before I left the Ministry of Defense that going forward, before the next recruitment, we must sit, we must have a conversation. The way the speaker said yesterday, I was watching him, we must communicate candid to the public, and we must deal with that monster. It cannot be a situation where a few people are taken to court-martialed. Kenyans, in their mind, are saying, for you to join the military, and based on the national security sections, it's supposed to be the face of Kenya. Kenyans, for them to join the military, they must pay between 400 to 500,000. I think that is unacceptable, if more. That's unacceptable, and it's part of the corruption that I was telling you, which is I think all of us together, the citizens themselves, the anti-corruption agencies, all of us together, we must face on. Why did I deploy KDF? I did not deploy KDF. The framers of the Constitution put Article 241, 3B, and 3C in the Constitution. So Kenya Defense Forces are in the streets. They're in Boni Forest fighting Al-Shabaab. They're in North Rift making sure that we deal with the banditry. They were in Westgate during the terror attack. They were in Garissa University during the terror attack where we lost many people. So for peace, public order, public safety, where the police are overwhelmed, Article 241, 3B kicks in. The function of the Minister for Defense, by then me, is once the article kicks in, then I am supposed to do certain subsidiary legislation. I gazette. And Mr. Speaker, all of us know Article 132 of the Constitution obligates the President to protect the other arms of government. He is the chair of the National Security Council. That day, the Office of the Chief Justice and the Supreme Court, as an institution, was under threat, under attack. Parliament and the colleagues sitting here, if KDF did not come to assist the other security agents, God forbid, many members of Parliament could have died, including our Speaker. Parliament could have been burnt. I will not be that irresponsible as a Minister of Defense with a provision of the Constitution. Provision of the Constitution, I used the law. And then the House went further the next morning, because it was going on a very long recess. They invoked Article 241, 3C. But when LSK went to court, Justice Mugambe, I don't want to discuss more because the matter is still in court, gave orders that I should give and gazette and do a new gazette on the terms of engagement, on how many places, and I said in the 47 places. Ours was to protect key institutions. Parliament is a symbol of democracy and governance. It is the home of the people's representatives. Mr. Speaker, all my life in Parliament, people used to come and present petitions. And any member of Parliament who's outside, near the gate, used to receive and take it to the office of the clerk or the office of the Speaker. I have never seen where people want to come and ban Parliament. So I think I want to thank the framers of the Constitution. I participated, the Speaker participated, many other members participated. I think it's today and that day, 25th of June, I realized how important Article 241, 3B and C is.
Owen.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I would like to ask a question to the nominee, Honorable Duale. Just one question. That this country envisages to have a nuclear plant in a place called Uyombo in Kilifi County. Without due regard to the environmental issues in question, like the delicate ecosystem, the people, and the environment, Honorable Duale, going forward, if you are given this opportunity, how do you intend to treat this threat to the people of Uyombo in terms of nuclear plant in their radioactivity materials and nuclear waste and the hazards that come with nuclear installations? Just that my question. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Owen Baya. I think it's the same thing I was saying. How did the county government of Kilifi give land? So I want to assure you